When disaster strikes, everyone's first instinct is to head for the hills. Escape to the wilderness where they'll be safe from chaos. But what if wilderness itself became the deadliest trap of all? You thought bears were the biggest threat in Yellowstone? Try surviving the apocalypse in a place where the ground can literally melt your face off, where massive bison outnumber your bullets, and where every geyser could be hiding something that used to be human. Welcome to Yellowstone National Park, where Mother Nature was already trying to kill you before the world ended. Today we're going to find out if you could survive a zombie apocalypse inside a national park. But before we get into the thick of it, let's set the stage. In this video we're dealing with classic zombies. Just your good old-fashioned shambler. Think The Walking Dead. As for how you ended up here, you were already in the area when the outbreak hit. Maybe you were camping, maybe working a summer job, or maybe you were a park ranger. Either way, it doesn't matter, because now you have to make the best of it, and survival depends entirely on what's around you. Let's figure out whether this place gives you a fighting chance or eats you alive. First off, let's talk space. Here you've got 3,472 square miles of rugged terrain, almost bigger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. That means endless space to hide, scout, or disappear completely. With that much space, you could walk for days without seeing another human or zombie. And the terrain isn't just vast, it's punishing. Steep mountains, deep canyons, fast rivers, and thick forests make it a nightmare for slow-moving undead. Natural choke points like single-log river crossings and narrow canyons let you create kill zones. A small group could hold off a much larger horde if they pick the right spot. About 80% of Yellowstone is heavily forested. It's perfect for concealment. Zombies rely on sight and sound, and forests mess with both. You can move quietly under tree cover, break sidelines, and disappear like a ghost. Yellowstone's landscape doesn't just slow zombies, it actively works against them. The same cliffs, rivers, and boiling pits that make this place dangerous for you are absolutely lethal for the undead. These aren't agile monsters, they're slow, clumsy, and loud. That means terrain that forces them into tight spaces like icy slopes or geothermal zones become a death trap without you lifting a finger. And if the virus doesn't jump species, an apex predator like a bear or wolves might actually help you out. A rotting slow zombie stumbling through a cougar's territory might just end up shredded and left for the crows. Sure, zombies might want your brains, but good luck explaining that to the 2,000-pound bison that's having a bad day. Nature doesn't like intruders, especially stupid, noisy ones. You're not just surviving in Yellowstone, you're weaponizing the park itself. The terrain isn't your enemy, it's your moat, your minefield, and your hunting blind, all rolled into one. Let's build on the terrain advantage and talk about water, because while zombies might not need it, you definitely do. You have no shortage of it here. Yellowstone has hundreds of rivers and streams, plus Yellowstone Lake, which is over 130 square miles. Even in the winter, you're not going to die of thirst. Just as long as you can melt and purify the water, you'll be good to go. And if there's water, you can bet there's food nearby, assuming you've got the skills and aren't afraid to get your hands dirty. Yellowstone is full of elk, bison, deer, rabbits, and fish. It's basically a buffet for anyone who could hunt or trap. And in the summer, berries, roots, and edible plants come alive. You could actually build a decent food stockpile if you play it smart. Bag a deer and dry the meat. Catch some trout and smoke it. You might not always eat like a king here, but you're not going to be starving either. Food's easier to find in summer, and so is staying alive. But it's not just about food. Yellowstone seasons play a massive role in how survivable this place really is. And if the outbreak happens in the summer, you hit the jackpot. Daytime temps sit around 21 to 24 degrees, which is around 70 Fahrenheit. Animals are active, plants are growing, and you don't need to worry about freezing to death. Long daylight hours mean more time to gather, fish, or build shelter. And the trails? Clear. Bikes or even vehicles might still work on those roads before they fall apart. And let's not forget winter. Zombies may not feel cold, but freezing temps still mess with them. In Yellowstone winters, where temps drop below -18 degrees Celsius or 0 Fahrenheit, the undead slow down, seize up, or even freeze solid. That means less zombie hordes and more meat statues scattered in the snow. Of course, food and water means nothing if you freeze to death or get caught sleeping in the open. So let's talk shelter. Yellowstone has lookout towers and fire watch towers scattered throughout the higher elevation. These were built for fire spotting, but they double perfectly as elevated scouting posts for sniper nests. They're usually high and out of reach. They're not insulated or built for long-term comfort, unfortunately, but when it's a choice between freezing in the woods or holding the high ground with a roof over your head, a firewatch tower starts looking like a damn luxury suite. You'll also find storage sheds, supply lockers, and possibly some useful caches in remote maintenance cabins or trail stations. Rangers didn't patrol this park with just a granola bar and a smile. Some of those outposts will have radios, fuel cans, first aid kits, and basic tools. And don't overlook the vehicles. Campgrounds, visitor centers, all trailheads will be full of abandoned cars and RVs. Even if they don't run, you've got insulation, storage, and materials to rip out of them. Fuel siphoning is also on the table if you move fast and get to the vehicles early. And those RVs I mentioned a second ago, they'll have stuff like sleeping bags, snacks, knives, batteries, sometimes even guns. People bring their lives when they're on the road, and now all of it is just sitting there waiting to be taken by a survivor. And don't forget the formal lodging. Yellowstone isn't just dirt, grass, trees, and tents. It has 9 in-park lodges offering over 2,000 rooms. These locations are built to handle tourists, foot traffic, and seasonal weather. They've got walls, roofs, even insulation, and fireplaces, which is a hell of a lot better than sleeping under a tarp. Some may have kitchens, storage areas, or backup power setups. Depends on the location and how fast things fell. If you can secure one early, it's not just a shelter, it becomes your home base. Shelters give you protection, but it won't help much if you don't see the threats coming. And in Yellowstone, visibility can make or break you. Early warning matters, but Yellowstone doesn't give you motion sensors or CCTV. You'll have to build tripwires, noisemakers, or use animals like crows or squirrels as passive alarms. Every sound matters out here. Something rustling that shouldn't be, that might be the only clue you get. And let's not forget visibility. Yellowstone isn't all thick forest. A small portion is open meadows and grassland. That gives you early warning to spot zombies coming from a mile away. So set up defenses and just avoid them completely. Yellowstone's silence isn't just peaceful, it's tactical. No traffic, no sirens, no screaming mobs, just wind, birds, and whatever's creeping through the woods. And out here, every snapped twig, groan, or careless voice carries. That gives you the edge. You'll probably hear the dead before they hear you, and that might be the difference between staying hidden or getting ripped apart. Let's talk mental health for a minute, because out here you're not stuck in an apartment building in a city full of the dead. You've got blue skies, open space, and the sound of birds. That helps. Especially early on, when the world's still collapsing and you need something to remind you that life's still worth fighting for. Because nothing boosts morale quite like a sunset over Yellowstone, until you realize that red glow off in the distance is probably just the forest on fire. Still, prettier than a city full of corpses. Alright, now let's reel this back in and snap back to reality a little bit. If you thought Yellowstone was a serene escape, you're wrong. It's a mosh pit of 32,000 daily tourists about to turn into zombie snacks. Let's talk people. Yellowstone isn't empty. In peak season, over 32,000 visitors enter the park every single day. That's families, tour buses, hikers, RVs, you name it. If the outbreak starts in summer, you're not surrounded by trees. You're surrounded by the screaming civilians, crowded roads, and a whole lot of biteable flesh. Lodges, visitor centers, and campgrounds would all turn into slaughterhouses within hours. And it doesn't end there. The park is surrounded by gateway towns like Cody, Jackson, Gardner, and Powell, all within driving distance. The combined total population of these Yellowstone area towns within available data is approximately 94,500 people as of 2025. As the news of the outbreak spreads, panic will drive people into the parks, thinking it's a safe haven. The initial flood will overwhelm the area. Now picture those scenic roads full of terrified tourists slamming into each other, trying to get out. You won't be navigating tranquil trails, you'll be dodging wrecks, herds of panicked survivors, and freshly turned dead. It'll be pure chaos. And if you don't move fast or already have a plan, you'll probably be swallowed by all of it. And to make matters worse, sound travels differently out here. Echoes bounce off valleys, canyons, and cliffs, turning one careless noise into a zombie dinner bell. Fire a gun to scare off a dangerous predator? Congrats, you've just invited every zombie within 10 miles to your campfire cookout. Even chopping wood or tripping over a rock could betray you. That peace and quiet you thought was your superpower out here, it's actually a trap, amplifying every cough, sneeze, or whisper. One wrong sound and you're the main course in a zombie buffet. And Yellowstone burns regularly. The park averages 24 fires a year, burning over 5,000 acres annually. Add in desperate people lighting fires or to signal for help, and you've got a real chance of being trapped between flames and zombies. As for wildlife, we kinda touched on this before, but let's be real. Yeah, a lot of it is food, but it's also a threat. Yellowstone is also home to grizzlies, wolves, and mountain lions, and angry bison that'll absolutely flatten you. And if they don't kill you, they'll steal your food, or your camp. You're not the top of the food chain out here. You're just another warm-blooded body fighting for survival. Yellowstone can be a death trap if you're not paying attention. Boiling hot springs, sulfur pits, and unstable ground can kill you just as fast as a horde of zombies. One wrong step and you'll get turned into meat stew. And then there's the super volcano under your feet. It probably won't erupt anytime soon, but if it does, well, then it's game over. Then there's the altitude. Most of the park sits above 7,000 feet, and the thin air up there can destroy you if you're not used to it. Headaches, nausea, and fatigue are one thing. Confusion and dizziness are another. Get disoriented while climbing or trying to run from zombies and you're in for a rough time. And don't forget the geothermal fog. It can create natural blind spots where a walker could be 10 feet away from you and you'd never know. And all that wild game you're counting on, so is everybody else. If enough survivors show up and start hunting, the animal population will crash. Eventually, starvation becomes a real possibility. The wildlife here could keep you alive, but not if every survivor and their cousin decides to start shooting everything. You'll have people killing deer, chopping off a leg, and then leaving the rest to rot. Knowing how to kill a deer is one thing. Knowing how to gut it without slicing into its intestines and ruining the whole thing, that's a whole other skill. And if someone messes up near your water source, congratulations, everyone's drinking E. coli stew. It won't take long for animals to either vanish or die off, and so will the people counting on them. Streams and lakes might not last long either. Overfishing, people washing their junk upstream, gutting fish in the water, even tossing out spoiled meat. They'll turn crystal clear streams into diseased soup. Yellowstone's massive, but depending on how many survivors are out there, if people overharvest, waste resources, and pollute the environment, a rapid collapse of the ecosystem is quite possible. And as more survivors flood in, desperate for safety and supplies, it won't just be wildlife being heavily contested, it'll be the shelter too. Especially when those 2,000 lodge rooms mentioned earlier start to look like prime real estate. Anyone with a brain and warm-blooded body will be trying to take one. Families, small groups, armed scavengers, even ex-rangers. Some will knock, some will kick the door, and others will bring the dead. And once the lodge is taken, good luck getting in without a fight. They're defensible, stocked, and better insulated than anything else out there. That turns them into high-value targets. You're not just dealing with the undead, you're competing with the living. Expect conflict, expect violence, and if you're not there first, you might have a hell of a time trying to get in. Now let's talk about winter, because out here you got sub-zero temperatures, howling blizzards, and 10-foot snowdrifts. Without shelter, insulation, and serious prep, you'll freeze before zombies ever touch you. Trails vanish, water sources freeze, and animals migrate or die. Plants go dormant, and if you didn't prep in summer, winter is basically a death sentence. Snow and ice make everything harder. Rivers freeze and crack, trails disappear, even simple tasks like collecting water or gathering wood can turn deadly. One broken leg, one case of hypothermia, and you're done. And the longer you're here, the tougher it gets. Without any stores, pharmacies, or backup supplies, things start to look grim. If you're lucky, ranger stations might have first aid kits, paper maps, or radios laying around. They also tend to have basic survival and operational equipment like batteries, light sources, and tactical gear for official use. They might also have weather preparedness items, since Yellowstone's weather can be unpredictable, so layered clothing and rain gear could potentially be here if it hasn't been looted yet. But don't get too excited, because you're unlikely to find a rifle or sidearm laying around. Rangers keep their firearms securely locked away and only carry them while they're on patrol. So unless you know where they're kept or happen upon a not-so-alive park ranger, you're probably shit out of luck. And to make matters worse, everything you own is going to break eventually. Your boots, your axe handle, your water filter, basically everything you own. It'll eventually reach a point where you can't replace it. Alright, now let's talk farming, or the lack of it. Thinking of growing your own food? Good luck. Most of Yellowstone sits above 7,000 feet like I mentioned earlier. The air's thin, the soil's trash, and the growing season is barely 2 months long. Even hardy crops like potatoes need 80 to 100 frost-free days. You won't get that here. Not in Yellowstone. It's just not gonna happen. Volcanic soil is also nutrient poor. You'd have to find a rare low elevation valley, haul in compost, defend it from elk, bison, and surprise hailstorms. And that's assuming temperature doesn't randomly drop and frost doesn't nuke your entire crop in July. Bottom line, farming here isn't a survival strategy. It's a fantasy. You hunt, fish, and forage, or you starve. Now let's talk long-term mental health, because solitude hits hard. Those peaceful sunsets and chirping birds, they turn into a cruel joke when you're in the silence of Yellowstone long enough. The quiet that made you a ninja now amplifies every zombie moan, twig snap, or paranoid thought. Weeks with no contact, no news, just you in the trees. You'll start naming squirrels or arguing with your own shadow. Injured, sick, or just cursed with bad luck, no one's coming. You're screaming into the void, and that void is full of zombies. Now to answer the question you came here for. Can you survive a zombie apocalypse in Yellowstone? Short-term survival rating for unskilled survivors. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. If you're walking into Yellowstone without survival training, you're basically a future corpse. The average person won't know how to hunt for food, find clean water, build waterproof shelters, or navigate without their phones. The most basic mistake, like drinking untreated water, eating the wrong plant, or getting wet at night, can kill you. Add panic, isolation, zombies, and zero planning, and everything falls apart. Sure, you might get lucky scavenging a tourist RV or finding a lodge to sleep in, or a few cans of food, but that luck will run out, especially with other survivors grabbing what they can. The sheer competition for those resources won't leave you much of anything. And once you face your new reality, huddle huddled up in a looted RV, stomach growling with zombies knocking, and no clue how to survive, you'll slowly realize you're not the hero of this apocalypse. You're just another meal waiting to happen. Short-term skilled survivor rating, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. For someone who knows what they're doing, Yellowstone is still dangerous, but not impossible. A skilled survivor can purify water, build a shelter, and secure food by hunting with firearms or compound bows. They probably won't have issues trapping, fishing, or foraging either. They'll also have a better idea of how to avoid predators. They'll be able to scout effectively from high ground and keep their presence hidden. In the short term, these advantages stack. If you move fast and smart, you might not just survive, you could dominate the early days and gather a ton more loot than people mindlessly running through the woods, which unfortunately will be most of the people there. Long-term survivability for an unskilled survivor, I'm going to give it a 0 out of 10. Winter changes everything, and for the untrained, it's a death sentence. And that's if they could even make it this far. Without the ability to preserve food, insulate shelter, or maintain gear, you'll freeze, starve, or get sick. Navigation also becomes lethal in snow-covered terrain, and one slip on ice could end it all. Even minor colds spiral into pneumonia. And once the tourist gear breaks or runs out, there's no backup plan. And the psychological toll of solitude and the constant threat of scavengers, zombies, or predators, and you've got 0 chance of making it through the cold season. Long-term skilled survivor rating, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Even for experts, long-term survival in Yellowstone or any national park is a grind, especially when you toss in zombies and potential hostile survivors into the mix. You'll need to rotate between camps to avoid resource depletion and being detected by the living and the dead. Your gear will fail eventually, and replacements are limited. Sooner or later you're gonna run out of ammo, and you have no options to farm. And the emotional toll will chip away at you. Months of trying to survive in the woods will wear you down, mentally and physically. If another group finds your shelter, you could lose everything. A skilled survivor might last a year or two with discipline and a bit of luck, but they're not building a future here. They're just buying time. Alright guys, if you made it to the end, I appreciate you as always, and YouTube thinks you'll like this video right here. And if you've already seen it or you're not interested, maybe you'd want to watch this playlist. Got a whole lot more just like it that you can binge. Cheers guys.